are continuing our Python Django series, and we're actually going to start digging a little bit more into our application itself. To this point, we've done very little. We've got tasks and we have status for tasks. What we're going to add this time is we're going to come in, and the long-term goal of this is we're going to be able to assign tasks to timeframes. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have like the idea here is to have maybe like an annual set of goals or tasks, and then those are going to trickle down to quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, maybe even daily goals. So first thing we want to do is we're going to call it a plan. So we're going to create, and this is so this would be like our annual plan, or actually let's call it a roadmap. So we're going to have a roadmap, and it's going to be a model. We're going to give it a name of the roadmap. So we could call it, my roadmap. It may be, roadmap 2000, roadmap 2020, things like that. We're not going to worry about a due date. We will give it a start date though. And we'll give it a completed date, because although some of these things we won't necessarily want to care about the completion date over a long period of time, it will be valuable to us. Status is not really going to matter because it's really down to tasks and things like that. We don't have to worry about any attachments. Minutes spent, we may want to do something, but we can do that through reporting. So we're not going to worry about that right now. There's definitely going to be an owner, and we'll keep a creation date. And then as far as the roadmap, then we're going to keep that as for the string version of it is we will just do the name, and then we're going to do the start date. So we'll be able to do that and give ourselves something that's a little bit useful. Now, within this, so we've got, remember, we'll look at hooking all of this up into our database here in a few minutes. But now what we want to do is we want to be able to assign tasks to roadmaps. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add something. We're going to get a little bit complicated here. So we're going to get a, let's call this a time frame. And I'm going to keep that lowercase just to make it simple. And so what a time frame is going to have is we don't need an owner. We are going to give it a name just because it's sort of easy to do that as far as just display purposes and things like that. We're not going to worry about start date, completion date, or creation date. We're not going to worry about owner, but what we are going to have is a time frame is going to tie a roadmap. And we're going to do that by, actually we'll keep it lowercase this time. But it's going to tie to the roadmap table. And we're going to give it a verbose name, which if you remember, that's what we're going to use in some of our displays in case we ever show this linkage. And we're also going to have a task. We're going to keep that lowercase to stay consistent. And that's going to tie to task. And we're going to actually call that a goal instead this time. So what we've done here is we've created a time frame that allows it's a lookup table, a cross-reference table that says we're going to tie roadmap items to tasks. And let's go ahead and we're going to do we're going to call it a type because we're going to have a couple different types that we're going to work with. And this is going to be its own little look at. But we're going to call this a time frame. And it is going to be equal to what we're going to do is we're going to provide a lookup. We haven't actually done this before. We can do a lookup here like we did within the database, or we can do one where we're not really going to create a lookup table. And in this case, I think we're fine doing that. So instead, there's two things we do. We give it a list of values, and we're going to call this time frame choices. And what we're going to do here is we're going to give it a series of choices, and we're going to do this by just creating a list. And so within this, let's do it this way, just to make it sort of obvious. With each one, it's just going to be a pair. So let's say we're going to do a couple of these. So we definitely have annual, and then there's going to be comma to separate these. Quarter, let's say quarterly. Well, let's do the time frame. So we'll just do, we'll keep it annual. We'll do it like that because this is going to be some text that we're going to use at some point. So annually, quarterly, monthly, weekly. And then we're going to come down here, and where we do our time frame, this is going to be a models dot integer because we're going to use this 0, 1, 2, or 3. Oh, sorry, it's integer field. And then we're going to tie it back to these time frame choices. And the way we do that is we say that the choices are equal to what we did up there, time frame choices. And we're going to give it a default of annual. And so what this is going to do is when we do get to the Django side of the smart, we'll call it the smart side part of building out our forms, it's going to be able to take a look at these choices to give us a drop down. We're also going to be able to use these to do some, essentially, we'll call it decoding. So there's going to be opportunities for us in a display for it to fairly easily say, okay, if it's a 3, I want to show weekly. I don't want to show 3. So this is a way to do enumerated types within our models. So our time frame now, we've got a roadmap. And then within that, we're going to have annual and quarterly, monthly, weekly tasks. And we've tied this to a roadmap. We've tied this to a task. We've given it a time frame. And let's see. So so in the mapping, actually, we're just going to skip. We'll leave it. So just do a self.name. And wow, this is really, let's just get rid of this completely. Let's simplify the name because we're not going to bother about that because really we don't care because now we're going to be able to show the name. Well, shoot, I keep going back and forth on this. So this is going to be the name of the, name of the time frame. So what we could do is we could come in and say, we could have multiple quarterly goals. So this could be, personal quarterly goals, which will be quarterly related to a roadmap, professional goals, relational goals, whatever, things like that. And then we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to return the name. So we've built out this nice little relationship at this point, and that'll give us a start. Now that's our models. But now what we're also going to want to do is with a roadmap. Let me grab these real quick. I don't want to worry about a view yet, but I am going to create a roadmap form. And that's going to be forms.model form. And this is going to be somewhat similar to what we do with our task form. So I'm going to build this rather quickly out of that. Whoop. And so this is going to come from, instead of from that, it's going to come from task. It's going to come from roadmap, which we did. So we're importing all our models. The fields are going to be name, due date. We don't have an attachment anymore. We do have a completion date, an owner, and creation date, due date. Let's see. Oops, I'm sorry. So we have name, start date. Gotta look at the right place for my things. We do have a completion date. We're going to keep our creation date, and we're going to keep our owner. And so we have those 5 fields. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got those. And we've got name, completion date. This is going to be start date, owner, and creation date. And we're going to leave them basically the same. So we're going to be able to do a select date for our completion, for our start, and our name is going to be basically the same name that we had before. So we're able to create our little custom form there. Let's see, nothing really special there. So now we have a form. And that means we're going to come over here, and where we have tasks, we're now going to create projects. We're going to list projects. And what you should be seeing here is that we can actually spin stuff up very quickly based on, once we get some, let's see, talking while I'm typing, that we're going to be able to use some of this code and essentially repeat it, copy and paste, and be able to put together a fairly, what did I call that? Did I call it URLs? So projects, that's going to be roadmaps. My mistake. How we can very quickly build off of what we already have. So we can expand this out rather quickly. So this is going to be roadmaps. And we're just going to call it items here. And it's going to take roadmap, task, object, order by due date and name. We'll keep the, we're just going to order by name this time. And this is going to be my roadmaps. Items. And now this is going to be a roadmap list. So instead of task list, we can jump over here. Where did we put that task list? We're going to duplicate that. And we're going to rename it roadmap list. Let's go to roadmap list. And then here, we don't really need this complete anymore. We're going to keep our title, and we called it items. So for item in items. Let's see. We called this class before tasks, and let's keep it that. So we're going to do item.id, because we may, so that way it's going to look roughly the same as it did before with our tasks for our roadmap items. So we may clean that up. Well, that's for now. Let's do that. So we're going to do roadmap item. And we're going to show how we can play around with this in our CSS at some point. So app.css. So where we had tasks for now, we're going to duplicate that and call that, actually let's do it this way, roadmap hyphen item. Go back over here, roadmap hyphen item. It's going to be item.name. We don't care about a due date anymore. We actually don't care about a status. We're going to keep this time spent because we're going to come back to this, but for now, because we're going to generate that thing out, but for now we're going to do it as 0. Actually, let's go ahead and build that out. No, I want to keep it simple. So we'll come back to that for now. We don't need a button because we're not going to, we do because we are going to want to edit it at some point. So we're going to do roadmap.id. Edit. We don't need the complete. call it, instead of no tasks available, we're going to say no roadmaps created. And we're not going to bother with the edit yet. So with all of this, we've actually built out our models. We've got our forms. And so all we need now to do is we're going to have to, if you remember, we have to update our database with this roadmap. So we're going to come over to our console here, and we're going to do, if you remember, we could do Python 3 manage, and then we're going to make migrations because we've got several now. And we're going to see that it's creating the model for roadmap and time frame. And then what we need to do is we have to do the migration itself. So we're going to do migrate. It's going to apply all of them. We saw it put both of these creations into roadmap time frame, which is what it called roadmap time frame. And so now, if I go back and run the server, which I can't remember. So I'll just grab one of these, see where it's running. So now if I run it here and I log in, now I haven't added anything to the navigation or anything. So what I did is I called it what, roadmaps? It's not defined. Oh, roadmap is not defined. So let's go back and look here. Oh, I probably did not import it into maybe views. Yes. So I do need to, I'm going to go ahead and import roadmap and what was the other thing? Time frames. There we go. So now, if I do it, boom, my roadmaps, I don't have any created. I do want to do a create. So I'm going to do it like, and well, I think we've sort of gone far enough this time around. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start working with this a little bit more, add a little more features to my roadmap itself, and be able to assign some tasks. So that will do it for today. We'll come back. We're going to continue building out our application next time around. Until then, have yourself a great day, and we will talk to you next time.